In this big talk performed by the incredible speaker Paul Glover, who flew into New York City every week from Chicago, he is going to share his very vulnerable story about why we all need a fool. I'm Tricia Brouk, curator of the Speaker Salon, and you have an opportunity now to watch the final outcome of Paul's amazing performance. Enjoy.
In the Middle Ages, kings ruled through the process of divine selection. And because God selected who would be king, and God does not make mistakes, anyone who challenged the king was committing the crime of heresy, which was punishable by death. But even though everyone accepted that God did not make mistakes, everyone knew that human beings, including the king, did. The conundrum was how to find someone who could tell the king they were making a mistake and not get their head cut off. The solution was the fool.
The image of the jester, or fool, wearing a three-toed cap and performing for their king or queen is one of the most familiar icons of the Middle Ages.
A jester? A jester?
But who were the jesters, and what role did they play, and what were their lives actually like?
In reality, the fool was a trusted advisor to the king, who, because he knew the king's personality, saw his blind spots, and recognized his patterns of self-destructive behavior, was able to advise the king and correct any mistakes the king might make. The fool was able to do this because he was seen as a crazy person. And crazy people were not held accountable for their words or actions. Because of that, the fool had the psychological safety to tell the king when he was making a mistake and not get killed. And that balance between the fool and divine selection supported each other for over 1,000 years. 1,500 years later, and because blind spots are not exclusive to kings, we all need fools in our lives. These fools are the people we trust, who can see our blind spots and our self-destructive behavior and care enough to tell us when we are engaging in acts, decisions, and choices that are harmful to ourselves and to others. We can never overemphasize the need to have fools in our lives. I wish 25 years ago I had knew the value of having a fool in my life. On July 19th, 1995, I got up a successful trial lawyer in the city of Chicago. 12 hours later, when I went to bed, I had been indicted by a federal grand jury of 33 counts of criminal activity, ranging from taking bribes and kickbacks and tampering with government witnesses. 10 months and 2 trials later, I began to serve a 7-year sentence for my crimes. As with most self-destructive behavior, there was considerable collateral damage beyond my going to prison. The financial devastation was dramatic for my family. I had spent all our savings, including my son's college education funds, taken out a second mortgage on our house, and when I went to prison, left my family financially destitute. And all this was in the vain attempt to not be found guilty of crimes I knew I had committed. But even more devastating was the emotional impact on my wife and sons when they, our neighbors, friends, and community realized that I was a criminal. It's a miracle that they survived my self-destructive behavior and still allowed me to be a member of our family. This was only possible because the years of my incarceration allowed me the opportunity for self-reflection and ultimately change. With the help of my fools, my friends and family, I was able to identify my blind spots and recognize what caused my self-destructive behavior. Because my blind spots are common, I would like to share with you those that put me in prison. The first was my need to belong, which caused me to associate with criminals. The second was my need for approval, which caused me to commit the crimes to impress those criminals. And the third was pride. To illustrate how strong our blind spots are, when I stood in front of a federal court judge who was sentencing me to prison for the crimes that I'd committed, he offered me the opportunity to reduce my sentence by 18 months if I would only accept responsibility for those crimes. And even though I had already been found guilty of committing those crimes, I refused. And I spent an additional year and a half in prison because of my pride. Unfortunately, even though we can, with the help of a fool, see our blind spots, we cannot eliminate them because they are so deeply rooted in our personality. But we can learn to control them. I've developed a technique that I use whenever I feel that I'm triggered to commit bad behavior. I do this by physically identifying my blind spots. Here, my need to belong. Here, my need for approval. And here, pride. When you see me reach up to touch one of those spots, realize that I'm trying to control my bad behavior, or I actually have an itch I need to scratch. While I may not be the best example, I still believe that you can learn from my experience. I desperately needed a fool in my life to tell me that the choices I was making and the people I was associating with were going to negatively impact myself and my family. Perhaps if I'd had a fool in my life, I would not have committed the crimes that put me in prison and caused so much pain and suffering to those that I love. We all need to accept the fact that we have blind spots that create self-destructive behavior. And because we cannot see our blind spots, we need to have a fool in our life who can see those blind spots and tell us when we're making negative choices and decisions in our life. Unfortunately, fools do not magically appear. First, we have to have the obligation to become self-aware enough to recognize, like the king, that we need fools in our lives to make us better. Then we need to find our fools. Fortunately, fools surround us. But like the medieval fool, they're disguised. Like our coaches, our mentors, our trusted advisors, our friends, and our family. Once we've identified them, then we have to ask them to become one of our fools. And this is a big ask, because none of us want to be told we're wrong. And if a fool agrees to be one of your fools, then whenever they bring you the gift of truth, you need to be grateful. And you need to tell them how fortunate you are to have them in your life. I can tell you, because of my bitter personal experience, that if you do not see the need to have fools in your life, you have the biggest blind spot of all. One more thing. When you have been blessed with a fool in your life, you need to become a fool for someone you care about. Because everyone needs a fool.
I hope you enjoyed this big talk. And if you have any desire to step onto my stage in New York City, whether you live here or not, go to thespeakersalon.com and apply to join the salon. I hope you enjoyed these episodes, and be sure to hit the subscription button and notification bell so that you can be sure to get access to all of my latest videos. Big love.